Argentina, inheriting, as she put it, the Spanish claim, then garrisoned the islands, but in 1831 lost out in a brush with the American Navy. And 2 years later, HMS Clio sailed in to reassert the British claim. For the Falklands, it was the start of almost 150 years of uninterrupted British rule. By the mid-20th century, here in the capital, Port Stanley, they were proudly boasting that they were more British than the British. And all the signs of that were there, from the police uniforms, the grand Victorian terraced houses, to the very English local pubs. But the 1800 islanders, whose economy is based almost entirely on sheep farming, were pretty evenly divided between those who wouldn't mind at least talking to Argentina, as the British Foreign Office suggested now and then, and those who saw any such action as a threat to their way of life. A way of life that even gave their governor a London taxi as his official car, and brought them to the War Memorial each year to remember the famous day in 1914 when British warships sailed out of here to destroy a German naval squadron. The token force of some 42 British Marines normally stationed on the islands were considered sufficient deterrent to an Argentina which would periodically make belligerent noises in their direction. And as backup for the Marines, 120 volunteers of the local defense force. But they'd never fired a shot in anger and were called into real action only once in 1966 when 30 Argentine nationalists hijacked a plane, landed it on Port Stanley racecourse to free, as they thought, the oppressed islanders, and to their great surprise were promptly surrounded and sent home on a British ship. Later, friendlier Argentine planes provided the only air link with the outside world, bringing in parties of Argentine tourists intent on observing and photographing the abundant wildlife. But in 1982, the first real sign that Argentina was bent on more serious business came not from the Falklands, but from South Georgia, a British dependency 800 miles to the southeast. 100 miles long, with forbidding mountains and glaciers, it was uninhabited apart from 20 scientists from the British Antarctic Survey and countless seals and penguins. The once thriving whaling stations and factories were crumbling and deserted. And it was here at Leith, on the 18th of March, that the Argentine Navy landed a party of 42 scrap metal merchants. They unloaded supplies and began dismantling the several million pounds worth of iron and steel lying around them. It was all the work of an Argentine businessman, Konstantin Davidov, who had made a perfectly legal deal to remove the scrap. What was not legal was that his men arrived in secret without telling British officials what they were doing. And what was more, they brought with them Argentine soldiers who lost no time in raising their national flag. The British administrator later travelled over from Grytviken to tell them to take it down and that they needed permission to stay there. His advice was ignored. The Argentines told Britain they would protect their men. The British Foreign Office still believed the problem could be settled by diplomatic means.